with neural rewiring. We're going to talk about his journey, what brought him to write this book, and what inspires him, and all these wonderful things. So, welcome, Arsen. How you doing today?
I appreciate that, Alistair. I'm doing fantastic. It's been a good day
Cool.
so far. Woke up, did some exercising, had a little breakfast, made my cold calling. Not finished for the day, so I'll be cold calling after this, but doing well so far.
All right. What kind of exercising did you do this morning?
Uh, Everything with the body. I mean, I have like some weights for being able to lift stuff, but push-ups, squats, and sit-ups, all that kind of jazz. Because I find that going to the gym is something that just takes too much time for me at the moment. So doing like the light exercises at home keeps me
Yeah.
going. And then when I'm done with the work, I'll go for a walk, go to the park, that kind of stuff.
Very
What
nice.
about you?
Yeah.
Do
A
you
lot of people
exercise much?
think. Oh yeah, almost every day I do a lot of martial arts, jujitsu.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of like yoga, a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
calisthenic stuff. A lot of people think they need a weight room and stuff, but I used to think I needed to have these big muscles in the weight room. But I learned now that you
Mm-hmm.
actually, you can, tire out your muscles and grow really, get really, become really fit with no weights. It's about
Mm-hmm.
pull-ups and push-ups and really simple stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but tell me, Arsen, what brought you to write this book? What is this? What brought you to write this book? Tell me the story of how you arrived here.
Sure. It's basically at some point in my, over the past, 10 years, I was thinking about, man, I wish I knew how to do X, Y, Z. And for me, it was making money consistently. And I always thought that maybe trading would be a good avenue and learned that trading is not as good of an avenue as it used to be because a lot of those exchanges where people actually used to trade, they've closed down. So you really can't go on Wall Street and become a runner for one of the traders. It's a lot more difficult to get that kind of a job. For the most part, they're gone. And so after I, went through that little bit of a pain point, I realized that okay, I got to get serious. So I started interviewing people, trying to get as much knowledge as possible about different careers. And once I got to the point where I was comfortable financially speaking, I was thinking to myself, well, maybe I should write a book for my kids one day. I mean, I don't want them to go through the same pain. And I was also listening to a podcast. It might be a podcast, or maybe it was just a regular live show by Grant Cardone. Do you know who Grant Cardone is?
Of course, yeah, of course.
Yeah, the big guns. I don't know how he's doing right now, but he's been very popular on the internet. And he's mentioned this story about his family, about how his father used to make a lot of money, or at least do well for himself. And when he passed away, unfortunately, prematurely, Grant Cardone, his brothers, and his mother were left alone. And so I figured, after that kind of a story, maybe I should get ready, pick up myself and finish the book, write it down. And I wrote the book about 2 years in. I had the most of it finished out, and was planning to start marketing it in probably 2 or so years from now. But then some things changed in the family, and I figured, okay, let me just release it now because one of my family members might not be around for much longer, and I want to make sure that she sees the book. And now that I got that done, I started marketing it. So last 3 months we were just grueling, sending emails, making phone calls, trying to find anybody who is interested in learning about sales. So that's
Right.
kind of the
So,
journey.
so something kind of drove you to create this book. But
Hmm.
now that you've created this book, there's a lot of learning to be had still, right? Like you had a lot of learning that went into making this book. You made the book, and now you're on this new journey, which is, you know, um, promoting a book. So you went through, So what was the process like of actually writing the book? Like, how long did that take you?
I think it took me about 2 years worth of actually writing, editing the book, and going through the motions. The most important thing is actually knowing what you're going to talk about. I think
Mhm.
once you have an idea of what you're looking to talk about and you have the skills necessary to talk about it, then you're golden. So whether you're writing like a novel or you're writing a how to do something book, the most important thing is just the knowledge. Because once I had that knowledge, 200 pages were not that difficult. I thought I had a little bit more pages than that, and I kind of stopped, writing after a certain point. But then after reformatting the book on Amazon, it ended up being around 220, I think, 219.
Mm.
But the most important part of that was knowing what to do. And then there are some hacks. So if you're listening and you're thinking about writing a book, I mean, the best advice I can give you is grab a six pack. I'm serious. I mean, like, listen, if you're talking to somebody about what to do and you're trying to give them knowledge, you will have a lot of self doubt. Like, oh man, should I say it like that, or should I say it in a different manner? I don't want to offend anybody. And eventually, you'll have to rewrite the book a little bit, re-edit it, take out some of the things that maybe you didn't mean to say, or you wanted to say a different way. But the most important thing is just to get those words out there. And if let's say beer or some glass of champagne gets you loose, go ahead, because that's, I mean, that was the biggest hack for me. Once I had a beer, I was just like typing away, like trying to type as quick as possible, like to keep up with my thoughts, because you can think
Yeah,
faster than you can write. But
yeah,
if you can keep up with writing your thoughts, like you can just go through the entire book pretty quickly. I mean, there
yeah.
were days where I wrote like 10, 20 pages a day.
So what is the book about?
It's pretty simple. Learn how to sell so that you can print your own income, essentially. Obviously, it's not easy. You have to put in the work. But if you do the work, and the work is not that complicated, you'll do well for yourself. I mean, I would, in the book, target to make at least 100K once you get your job set up within the first 3 months. If you can't do that, I mean, you'll get close to it. But that's the goal. And just to give you an example, I mean, when I first started in real estate, I knew how to sell, so I already had the knowledge of learning how to sell and how to acquire clients and things like that. But I knew no regulations. I had no contacts. I was in a brand new area, so I pretty much didn't know anybody here, and there was no uncle or aunt who can give me a listing or a property to buy. My friends weren't marrying in this area. But if you have the knowledge, you can go and get going quickly. In my first 3 months, I was able to earn about 50K, and that's working part time, 2 hours a day. So you
Okay.
just double that, and you probably get to 100K.
So is this for typically people that are in real estate, or is this can be applied to its sales in any different area?
Any area. The most important thing is you want to pick a product, and you want to have the mentors to help you out with your journey. So, like in the book, the first step is to, well, read the book, but then to actually go online and find different mentors, talk to people who are in sales, because salespeople will pick up the phone. And
Hmm.
they might not be happy to give you the interview. They might not want to spend time with you, telling you what they do and how they make it work. But if you keep calling, and you get to 100 people, I guarantee you there will be one, two, three people on that list who want to hire you. And if they want to hire you,
Hmm.
chances are, if they're a salesperson, they're already pretty high up.
Yeah.
So you can do medical sales, car sales, real estate sales, SaaS, so like software. But the most important thing is the groundwork, like building that bridge to that plateau, so that you can actually get up there and start going day one. So
Yeah,
that it
definitely.
just relies on cold calling and relies on pretty much getting the contacts.
Yeah. Why do you think people uh don't succeed in sales? Like people that have troubles with it. What are some of the big conflicts that people have?
Mostly, it's probably just them. Like, do they want to actually make money? Do they want to put in the work required to get there? Are they willing to take a risk here and there? Like, I was working with a sales rep in medical sales, and she was in the industry selling, oxygen, CPAP, ventilators, nebulizer medication for over a decade. So she has the experience. She's doing well in her area. She's making at least 100K probably, but she's never switched companies.
Hmm.
So in my book, I write about several different key target areas that you got to focus on, like your product, your mentors, your processes. She didn't focus on the product at all. If she switched products from, let's say, selling CPAPs and things like that to maybe doing a different specific type of medication for nebulizer, because there are some medications in nebulizers that cost $1,000 per month
Hmm.
that the insurance pays out on. Even though if you can get a typical simple not over the counter, but like an easy drug like albuterol, it's a very common drug for people who have asthma and COPD, those kind of issues. Very easy to get, very cheap. You only get like $100. You get like $70 per month for that kind of a medication. You don't make
We lost Arsen. Arsen, where'd you go? Technical difficulties, guys. Hey, I
sorry,
lost you.
people.
You're
Apparently,
back.
if people call me, that will break the stream, so we might get disconnected a couple times.
No, okay.
Sorry
All
about
right.
that.
No worries.
But
So
yeah, so she didn't switch the products, which she could have, and as a result, she stayed flat. But if she,
yeah.
put in the work, made some contacts in the area, so with jobs, have 50% raise in income, 100% raise in income, just depends on what you pick.
Yeah. Yeah, and careers are the same thing. Like a lot of times people are staying in the same career and they're going to make 2% increase in their job every year. But sometimes if you know make the switch, when you make the switch, it's not easy because you're
Mm-hmm.
forcing yourself to do into some change. But a lot of times when you do that, that's where the growth comes from. But I think a lot of people are challenged by the fact that they don't want to go back to being a beginner at something. And
Yeah,
so they will continue on the easy path, even though even you can experience a lot of growth when you make these changes, right?
exactly. Have you had an
Yeah.
experience like that where you challenged yourself to grow yourself and put yourself outside of your comfort zone?
Oh yeah, all the time. The biggest one that I am experiencing now is that, I used to work at Apple. I used to work at
Mm-hmm.
Facebook as a project manager, and I
Okay.
was making very good money, Bay Area tech salary type of money. And it had, I wasn't just the money, I was making had a prestigious job title where I would tell people what I did for a living and they would, I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. But I didn't have the freedom that I wanted. I didn't have, I also knew that as a salaried employee, there's a cap as to how much you'll ever be able to make. And there's
Right.
no way to push past that cap. And so I wanted to leverage the mathematics of business, and the mathematics of business state that there really is no limit. The limit is how well you perform in business. It's a creative endeavor that the harder I work, the more I get paid. So I went from working at Apple and Facebook and the tech industry to being in the home service industry, in particular,
Hmm.
doing carpet cleaning and doing
Huh.
pressure cleaning, pressure
Wow.
washing. So it's definitely interesting transition. And people look
Mm-hmm.
at me like, "Oh, you had this amazing job that most people would kill to have, and then you left that up and you become a janitor." But to me, it was a no-brainer because I didn't feel at home with these people in this corporate world, and I wanted to escape the corporate world. And again, the mathematics of it is, well, I can stay and work in a job where I can receive a particular salary, and that's my
Mm-hmm.
salary. I may experience a little bit of growth year after year, but in order to experience exponential growth, I would have to be in running my own business. Like that's the math. It's
Right.
not possible to earn a high income without having that type of leverage activities. So once I figured out that there was no way for me to achieve my financial goals by
Mm-hmm.
being a salaried employee, then I had to make the switch. And sales has been a huge part of that. So
Mm-hmm.
I understand that in order to be your own business, you have to be able to market and you have to be able to sell. And the better your product is and better your offer is, the less time you're going to spend selling. But there's like this, this is you have marketing, sales, and your product, and all of them work together to determine how well your business is going to be. But you have your offer. If your offer is great, then you don't need to have as much, as good as sales. If you have great marketing, then you don't need to have as much sales. If your sales are amazing, well, then you could have a mediocre product. So it's kind of like these three things work together, and the business has just been like a formula to me that
Mm-hmm.
that it's a very creative endeavor for me that I enjoy problem solving. Like the problem is what? Problem is financial freedom and wealth. So how do I
Mm-hmm.
get there? I have to just break it down into pieces. You have an offer, you have marketing, you have sales, and you have a process and how to tie these things together. And I'm fascinated by sales because, first of all, it's a very like, emotional thing. Like you'll be grinding, 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 hearing no, hearing no, hearing no,
Yeah.
and then you get a yes, and you're just like on top of the world, and it's such an amazing feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And the payout is so big, a lot of times. I mean, depending on your industry, and so there's a serious emotional component to sales.
Mm-hmm.
And my first job ever, like one of my first real jobs was
Mm-hmm.
in sales, and that's kind of what got me hooked. And it was like such a psychological thing. Like you're hearing, no, 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 your numbers are down. Like, oh, what am I doing differently? But that's all
Hmm.
part of the charm of sales, don't you think? Like you find
Yeah,
like
I agree.
yeah, yeah. Do you enjoy it, or do you something you just kind of do as a necessity? What are your feelings about it?
It depends on the day, right?
Yeah.
Some days I enjoy it, some days not so much. But like you said, I mean, it's about problem solving and figuring out what you're trying to achieve and how to get there. Like, yeah, sometimes I will not enjoy selling, but if I don't make those phone calls, if I don't pick up the phone and try to get the leads, try to talk to prospects, guess what? Tomorrow is not going to be any different. It's not like somebody's going to call me out of the blue and say, "Hey, Arsen, are you looking to sell me a house? I'm looking for a big mansion in Lehigh Valley." They're not going to call me
Yeah.
most of the time for that. So
Yeah.
I got to get out there. It's a contact sport, and I got to make those
Yeah.
contacts.
When did you get
Now,
into real
yeah,
estate?
I bought a house. I saw how my realtor did his job. I like him. He's a good guy, but he didn't do a lot of work, and he made a good commission.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I know. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, man, wait, you're gonna make like 20 grand off of this sale, and all you did was just like fill out this paperwork and post an ad on like some exchanges. 20 grand? Like, what?
Yeah.
You know, like, what the hell?
You can be lazy and do okay in real estate. I think most of the realtors, they make that average income because they're happy with it. Like, I think an average realtor makes around what, 50 or so $1,000, probably around there. And the reason they do only that much is because they're happy with it. They'll get a contract from a friend of a friend. They might get some leads from realtor.com or Zillow.com, and they're happy with it. They made their 50K. Their house is already paid for. It might be in the family, and they just have to, pay for the food, for some expenses, and go on vacation. Doesn't take too much
Hmm.
work. But if you want to do a really good job, there are lots of different little things that differentiate somebody who's good versus somebody who's not good. Like for instance, last year, this was a great example because most of the time I got to deal with percentages, numbers, but this was two houses selling at the same exact time. So 3 bedroom, 3 bath, 3 bedroom, 3 bath. Mine sold for, and mine was worth about 390, I would say, and the other house is probably worth around 385. Mine sold for 400. You want to guess how much the other one sold for?
370.
Less.
How
Same
much?
exact month, same street, like a few houses away. The condition of the house, they're both almost brand new. 330 something, about
Wow.
$60,000 difference.
Wow. What
That's
was the
just
difference?
marketing, negotiation. Perhaps one seller is more scared than the other one. But the most important thing is how you handle all those variables. If somebody who's divorcing comes to a real estate agent, what's their first instinct? Yeah, man, you got to sell the house, brand new start. But that's not the right way to go about it. It's like, hey guys, I get it, you're in a tough position. Let's figure it out. Do you hate this house? Do you have to sell it? Because if you don't have to sell it, you can make a lot more money just renting it out. Is one of you
Hmm.
okay with being in the house, or do you actually emotionally not want to be there at all? Let's talk about it tomorrow. Let's figure out all these variables and make a plan. Because you don't have to sell a house. You could get a mortgage out of it and go buy another house. So one of the persons could stay there. If people are financially okay, they could just buy two other houses and have one house that produces a rental income, and the other person can just take a loan on that house, and they can both separate without selling the property because they can save a lot of money that way. They don't spend the marketing fee for the realtors, they don't spend the transfer tax for the state. So it's better not to sell sometimes, but
Wait,
you have to
so
walk into that.
how do you make money if they don't sell their house, if they decide to rent it out? Why would you
I can
want them
help
to?
them buy a house.
I see, I see, I
And
see.
if I can't
Wow.
help them, I don't really. So one of the difference between me and some of the other realtors is I don't care about the sale as much. And
Hmm.
because I don't care about the sale as much, I get a lot more repeat customers and people refer to me out.
Hmm.
And I have a much higher closing rate because people end up being more comfortable with working with me. So, like for
I
instance,
see.
on my certain lead sources like Zillow, my closing rate was about 15% per year, which and depending on the industry, it might mean nothing. But with those kind of leads, we're expecting about 6.5% closing rate. The company targets around 10%, but nobody gets that high. And I
Hmm.
got around 15%. Why is that the case? I don't care about the outcome as much. And so as a result, I can focus on my clients more. And I think ultimately people feel that. It's tough
Hmm.
to convey it in 1 second, but if you take actions time after time, and a whole week you're being consistent on your actions, people will feel that. And
Yeah.
I think that's the differentiator between somebody who does well and somebody who just tries to get commission and doesn't do well.
Hmm. So, how do you, where does sales come in real estate as a realtor? Because I mean, are you like convincing somebody to buy their home, or like where does the sales aspect come in?
It's figuring out how to be an advisor, because the most important thing is to sell yourself. Because the client can go with you, they can go with their let's say cousin who is a realtor, they can go with one of their best friends who's a realtor, because almost everybody has somebody that they know who's a real estate agent. So why should they choose you instead of somebody else? So the most important thing is to convey yourself. So one, you're selling your expertise, so you're making sure to inform the client about the market, about how you do things, about why you save money for your average client, or you sell their property for a bigger amount than somebody else. And by educating the client, you make them more happy to go with you. Whereas if they go away from you, they might lose out on all those benefits. So, like for instance, have you ever bought a house yourself?
Yeah, a few times.
Okay. And when you were going with your realtor, did they update you on the average list to sale price? Did they update you on what offers win versus what offers don't win? Were they happy when you submitted low offers? Help me understand how your process was.
So when I bought a house, I actually didn't use. Oh no, I did use an agent. It was a friend of
Mm-hmm.
mine, and it was my first time. I actually was happy because there was a couple things that he helped me with. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because it was my very first time. I thought like, oh, it looks pretty simple. I don't really need them. I don't, But as a buyer, obviously, you don't pay for it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, why would I not, help my friend out, have somebody take care of some of the work for me? And it ended up
Mm-hmm.
being cool because he helped me with a few things like, you know, uh, uh, like he got me a home warranty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it helped me maybe look more professional. But another time, I was working with an agent trying to buy a home, and I didn't have a personal relationship with this person, and they're very interested in closing the sale. I was looking at
Mm-hmm.
buying in the Bay Area, and he's like, "Yeah, look, we had to waive all these contingencies, no inspection, no this, no that. Like, you need to come in like 20% over. Do you want this deal or not? Like, we gotta, you know what I'm saying?" And I was like, "Shit." And we came like really close to making some really bad deals just because at
Uh-huh.
some point you're like, you know, uh, like it or not, you kind of almost feel obligated to help this person close a deal, like help your agent close the deal at some point, which is crazy
Uh-huh.
because I'm the client, but like, he's working with me, he's helping. So, yeah, and the same thing happens almost every time. So when I was looking to sell a home, also, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, they're 30 days in the market, it didn't sell, and she's like, we should lower the price, and I'm like, no, the price is good, the market sucks, let's be patient, you know and just like, they really, really want to make a deal at any cost. and
Mm-hmm.
um and that's one of the reasons why I am very skeptical to try to work with a realtor, unless it's someone
Yeah.
that you actually know and trust.
Right.
Yeah.
And so did the throughout this entire process, did you know like comparable prices for homes so that you know exactly where the market's at? Did you know like how
So they
much
had
over
a
list price they were paying versus other people?
I think so. Like he had like a email. One of them had an email
Mm-hmm.
thing that would go out, and it would kind of have like, comparables that were being sold in your market, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Okay. Did you know like the percentage over list price that people were putting in on average, or
Um, I don't think so. No.
okay?
Oh,
So
maybe a little bit, because if
maybe,
they told
yeah.
me what the list price was, not really,
Mm-hmm.
not a whole lot. Yeah.
Okay. So you just pointed out a couple of different reasons why people end up working with me.
Hmm.
For instance, if a person goes look for a property, a lot of times they will go through one, two, three people to actually go check out properties. So they'll compare a couple different agents, or they will be told about a couple different agents they can speak over the phone to, so they can compare how people, vibe with them to figure out whether or not they can work together. And so throughout the process, you can either be that agent who pushes them, where we can be the agent who says, hey, listen, when you're looking at this property, you want to be looking at these different things. These properties sell for approximately this much in the last 3 to 6 months. So if you're patient, you can get it approximately this price. If you want to put in the work, we can probably get you below, but it has to be a house that needs some work. Or if you find a house that didn't sell, that's another trick you can use. Is if it didn't sell for some reason, maybe it's because of bad marketing, maybe that agent has bad reputation, nobody wants to work with them. If you find the property didn't sell long enough, we can potentially nail that one down and get you a good discount. And this is in the hottest market. So like in 2022, an average buyer versus myself paid about 2.5% more for their buyers versus my buyers in Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania. And why did that happen? It's because we negotiated more. Most of my clients were very relaxed. They did not overpay. They weren't being pushed to try to give the best possible offer. They were calm, and we negotiated. If you do those kind of things, if you put your client first, then they will remember that. They will say, hey, my friend Jackie is looking for a property. Hey, listen, if you're looking in Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley, call Arsen. Easy.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting, I think my first referral was 1 year into the business. But even a few years now in the business, I'm getting a lot more referrals than most people. I think at the moment the market is so thin. There's so few properties on the market that half the agents in my area don't even have one property under contract. Meanwhile, I have two. And why is that the case? Is it because I'm special? No. It's because I put my client first. I figure out what their needs are, and then I go off of their needs. If they don't care about that, if they're just like, hey, I want to buy a property now, okay, sure, we can pay, we can get you this property. This is what it's probably going to cost you. If you want to try it, we can save you money by doing certain structured deals. Like, for instance, instead of giving you best offer, you can give a best offer and an escalation. Kind of like in the stock market, you can say bid higher up to a certain point, but no higher than X amount. Lots of different ways to save you money. But it depends on the client, what they want, and if you put them first, again, you're going to be okay. Whereas if a lot of realtors, they don't do that, and so they have a much more difficult time, surviving in the business, thriving in the business, and they actually, doing well for themselves.
Yeah. So
as far
I'm
as
curious.
sales, I didn't answer this question twice now. What do I do sales wise? I mean, besides selling myself, I also market the property better than other people. So, for instance, in my area, there's 3 different MLS systems. Most agents just have one access to one of the MLSs because you have to pay for each one. But if you have all 3, you get not just this many buyers, you get buyers from here and here, so you get that many buyers.
Right.
So now all of a sudden, property is going to have much more exposure. Second thing is, and believe it or not, people still don't take professional photos. People still do not write up a proper copy. I mean, we have ChatGPT, so you don't have to be a hard worker, a great writer. You can just go to ChatGPT, give some facts, have ChatGPT write for you a description, and save yourself, 20 minutes of writing a copy. People still don't do that, and people don't know how to negotiate. I mean, I can talk to you about my, corporate career experience, how I negotiated there, and why I have my negotiating experience to help me my clients, to help me help my clients. But most people don't have that, and so when you put all these things together, you're a better representer to your client, and you're better at negotiating to the other people, so that you can get a better deal for your client. So that's kind of how sales comes into play. And you do use more sales on sellers than buyers, because buyers, you want to just figure out what they want so you can help them. For sellers, you know what they want, so you want to figure out how you can be the guy who helps them, which tends to come from the fact that I can do better marketing, I can do better negotiating. Here are some of my examples, and if you are looking to get the best deal for your house, let's talk. If you're comfortable, people will choose you.
What's going on with the real estate market these days? I'm curious, like what the market's like, and what are some of
Yeah.
your kind of predictions for the next 12, 18 months?
I'm a little bit more optimistic than most people. I mean, last year we heard about CNBC, CNN saying that the market's going to go to zero, it's crashing, there's not enough buyers, the interest rates are too high. The reality is, last year I said it's going to be flat, and this year I'm starting to wonder maybe actually it could go up, because it depends on the area, but the market's still strong. So, like, for instance, in Pennsylvania, we have not enough inventory, a lot of buyers, and the interest rates are high, but historically they're fairly average. And so because of that, not enough inventory, and the interest rates are not too high yet, people are still buying. But I know that
Hmm.
in other parts of the country, like California, I mean, prices there are so inflated that they've been going down from what I've heard. So I can't
Yeah.
really speak on to what's going to happen there. In my area, it's booming, it's hot. A lot of people who are doing logistics have moved into Lehigh Valleys because of actually California. So thank you to California for making regulations more difficult and making my area hotter. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean the interest rates are so high, but
Hmm.
um, I mean people just aren't gonna people. So it makes it hard for people to become home buyers. At the same
Yeah,
time, if they have a home and you're locked into, if you bought a home in the past 5 years, well, you're like in these crazy low rates. So why
hmm,
would you sell and pick something else up at this point?
exactly.
Um, and then most people are turning their homes into rentals, because they're like, okay, if I do need to go buy something, I'm not gonna sell my home, I'm gonna keep this one here and then kind of turn it into a rental. So it's a tough market for a lot of people, but as a result, I mean, I know prices are coming down, there's a lot of negotiability, um, but I think oops.
I think your webcam just went bad
Oh
or
no,
disconnected.
what's going on here?
Well, while you figure it out, I'll just keep the conversation going and say that, yeah, you are correct about a lot of uncertainty in terms of what's going to happen because not enough sellers are on the market. New construction, by the way, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so new construction is more expensive, and so it's difficult for new construction to come in and say, "Hey, let's sell new homes," because they're going to be a lot more expensive than existing homes, at least in my area. And as a result, the inventory is just continuing to be below what the there you go. The inventory is continuing to be well below
Happy
the
little webcam. Oh, dinky little webcam.
You
Technical
look like you're
difficulties.
somewhere. There we go. It's starting to get better. At first, it was like
Yeah.
a Middle East,
Yeah, it looks like I'm on
calling
an
to
Android or
US.
something. I don't know. Okay, sorry about that. I
No
think my
worries.
battery died on my camera.
And so yeah, so I
But
mean, the
anyway.
market's going to be a little bit uncertain, but the sellers are still going to be there. So if you were looking to buy a property, you can buy it. It's just not going to be easy to afford it, and I don't know if it's going to be any easier in the future because the currency is so weak and unbalanced that I don't know if it's going to get any cheaper. So, like for
Yeah.
instance, why do people still have to sell? Divorces, estates, people. Maybe they just don't like their house. They want to move into a bigger house. They're making a lot of money, right? Alistair's making his big bonus from a YouTube channel. He wants to buy a mansion. I mean, people will have to buy properties, and sometimes people, they retire. They want to move, make a move into a smaller house. They want to move from here to Puerto Rico, or let's say to Spain or to England, somewhere else. So people will still sell properties. People will still buy properties. The market is going to keep going. It's just going to be a lot less of a pie. And so because it's a lot less of a pie, what will happen is that a lot of realtors will go back to finding new jobs and going to different sales because it's not going to be very easy. And you can't stay broke forever. You got to make money in America. You got taxes, you got food, nothing's free.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious, do you have any negotiation techniques that will work in kind of any industry that you can share with us?
Yeah. I mean, the
Any
most
Donald
important
Trump
thing is
style
to
negotiation techniques?
learn as much as you can. So learn how to listen. Because when you learn how to listen, you will learn when you have a good hand, when you have a bad hand, when you can push, when you have to walk back a little bit. Because if you learn to listen, you will see what the opportunities are. Second thing is you have to be very aware that you can win-win. You have win-win situations. So let's say there's a good example in my book by Carl Gregory. He does like oil logistics and stuff, does sales in that area. Let's say you want to open up a new refinery or a new gas exchange, not exchange, but like a point where you can get gas in a different geography. So let's say you have no business in California and you want to go there and start selling fuel to your own gas stations. Somebody else in that California geography will not want to give you that, because if they give you the opportunity to buy space to store your fuel, they will lose space to store their own fuel, which means their volume is going to go down. They're going to make less money. So it's a lose for them, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you just stop at that point, you're going to bang your head on the wall and you're going to have to keep cold calling and try to get somebody, to break through somehow, or maybe build your own, separate storage points, spend a lot of money. Or you can say, okay, cool. So that's what I want, and you don't want that as much. What do you want? And let's say that company, let's say Exxon says, hey, I want to go into Florida, there's not enough space there, and I want to go into Texas, there's not enough space there. Cool. Well, I can't give you Florida at all, but in Texas, our business has been slow. I can give you this certain amount of space, so we can work on something out that way.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden, you might give up a little bit over here, but you get a little bit over there, and overall, you win because you gave up nothing in Texas because you weren't making money there, and you gained your share that you wanted to gain in California.
Yeah,
So that's the
absolutely.
most important thing. Like for instance, I was negotiating at the Sunoco as a trading analyst, and nobody wanted this job of handling IT contracts. So Bloomberg or Reuters, a whole bunch of different names like Argus Platts that you might not know about. They had big contracts with us, so about $2.5 million worth of spend per year. And so the VP came to me and said, "Hey, Arsen, save us some money, or make these contracts, maintain them or something." So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I'm not trading at the company yet. Eventually I wanted to, but maybe I can save you some money and get a bonus, right? I mean, tit for tat. I make you happy, you give me a bonus because I'm not making a lot of money. I mean, I was making like 63,000. So out of college, fresh out of college, it wasn't a lot of money. And so I was hoping to grow that. And so first year, I ended up going through each single provider and I would talk to them. I would figure out what they're providing to us item by item, what our contract was line by line. And I've seen things that were crazy. Like in the contract, we have a automated provision that says every single year the cost goes up by 5.5 or 5 something percent. I mean, who would sign that? That's double the inflation rate, but somebody signed it. So obviously, the other company was very happy with it. And so we went line by line. I figured out what was critical to the company. I figured out what the terms were being provided to us, and I started negotiating. So in some examples, I would pretty much play hardball because the other person was a hardball player. If somebody only knows how to fight, you have to unfortunately learn how to fight. If you can't fight
Mhm.
today, retreat, learn how to fight another day. And so on one of the contracts, last minute, at like 12 p.m., the contract's expiring. They're calling us at 11 a.m. Hey, so we're seeing you canceling your contract. Why don't we renew? We can maybe work something out here and there. And all of a sudden, they're playing ball. Whereas somebody who is very nice to us and we actually just wanted to renew the contract, I said, okay, well, we like them. We want to renew contract, but that's not how you negotiate. Let's see what they can do for us. The economy is tough, blah, blah, blah. Help me understand, can you do something for me where this makes, the deal makes it attractive for us to renew it? Because, we already have this service with another company. We really don't need to pay for it again. Actually, we do, but, I'm not going to tell them that. And so the other company comes back to me, gives us 10% discount. It gives us free 2 months. And what did I give up in exchange? I signed for 2 years instead of 1 year. Cool. I'm
Right.
happy to do it. I'll sign for 10 years because we're probably going to have to use them. And they're the main provider for our terminals. So that's kind of how you negotiate. You have to figure out by listening a lot to them. Try not to speak. Don't give your story about yourself. If you do, give little so that they can learn a little bit about you, fill you out, and then start to give their own information about what they do, how they do things, because you will see patterns. Do they keep eye contact? What things do they mention that are important to them? What do they mention as their achievements? Why do they think that you want them? Like you have to feel out, like why do they want to work with you? I know obviously they make money, but how much money? Is it a critical
Mhm.
contract? Because if it's a critical contract, great. Sales rep might not want to negotiate with me because he just wants to keep the contract going. But if I put a lot of pressure on him, great. Now I'm going to talk to his manager. His manager is going to be like, oh, shoot, not a lot of people do this. Now I got to negotiate and play the ball. And so you can save a lot of money by, listening and looking for win-win situations.
Yeah. Awesome. So I want to go back to this book real quick. Something kind of piqued my attention. I was curious about it.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell me about what is neural rewiring?
Yes, I mean, 2 years. I thought you were gonna ask me about that first line because I was looking at $100 million offers by Alex Hormozy,
Oh
and I
yeah.
was thinking maybe I could do something similar. I don't make as much money as all the CEOs or Alex, but I know that all of the CEOs that I'm at, they work like 50 weeks a year, and I work a lot
Mhm.
less. So I was able to make
Yeah.
that marketing comment because I mean last year I only worked like 6 7 months. A lot of time, most of that last year I think I spent on vacation. Between
Mhm.
September till the end of the year, I was just traveling and enjoying myself. Whereas I know no CEO is doing that. But for the neural wiring, it's a better question. The way that I came up with that is because I wasn't very happy like a few years back. So like in 2017, well, 2019, I think. In 2019, I wasn't making money with trading, and that was my entire goal from college to go into trading, learn what it is, learn how to make money with it. And I realized that it's not what it used to be, and I realized that I was not going to make any income with it. I mean, I was floating along and surviving, but I wasn't thriving. And so,
Right.
because of being in that negative headspace, I realized that okay, well, if it's not going to work out, what can I do to make it work out? Well, first of all, I got to fix myself because I'm not happy. So I started repeating different things to myself. So in the morning and at night, I would do the rituals of saying, "What am I grateful for?" So, like your family, my health, my family's health, our family's opportunities, my opportunities. I'm thankful for the car. I'm thankful for the health, for the food. Thankful for my friends, their opportunities, their health. And by repeating all the things that I'm grateful for, and then also doing the same thing with what am I good at? Like I'm a good person. I am intelligent. I know how to communicate well. I learned to help, in my past, I've helped a lot of people. So I know that I can help a lot more people by finding something where I can apply myself in. By being very positive and deliberately spending, 4 or 5 minutes, maybe more a day on this little exercise, all of a sudden I created neural pathways in my brain that associated myself with positive thinking. So let's
Mhm.
say I called a company, Medtronic or some other company, and they said, "Hey, you don't have a lot of sales experience. We don't want to hire you." Okay, that's fine. I'm still a good person. I'm still have my family. I still have my health, and I don't care. Cool. I'll call the next person. But before that, obviously, when I ask, well, I get it. Why not? Is there something I can do? Perhaps I can shadow one of your reps to understand what they go through in their daily routine, and that way I can better see whether or not I can be of utility to you guys. You can go through that little exercise, but ultimately, you want to associate yourself with positive activities. So, like if you're drinking some water, water is very cheap, not well, at least in America, and it's a delicious, glass of water or a cup of water. I'm thankful for that. Thank you, God, for giving me the opportunity to drink this water. Although usually I would say I'm thankful for coffee or tea because at least it's something you pay for. It's a little bit more to be thankful for. But that's kind of the things that I would implement in my daily routine. And when you do that, it's not just one neural pathway in your brain that said that. It's one pathway that was traveled 20 times. So
Mhm.
if you do this, if you think about a certain thing over and over and over, it becomes more prevalent. It gets a bigger market share in your brain.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to do when you're in negative headspace. And everybody, almost everybody that I talk to, at least one point in the day will go through a negative headspace. Like they
Yeah.
might say, "Oh man, I'm tired." Okay, cool. I mean, you're tired, but is it a useful emotion? Could you make it better? Oh man, I'm tired. Maybe I should take a nap so I can feel great. Maybe I could go for a walk outside. It's fresh air, and then after you go for a walk, you feel a lot better. Or maybe somebody might say, "Oh, it's so difficult to market a book." Okay, that's a negative headspace. It is difficult, no shit. But if you say, "Okay, what can I do to make it easier?" and you think
Yeah.
about that, what can I do to make it easier? What is the process? Let's visualize what it looks like. I mean, it's one of the ways that I was actually able to save a project in my former Sunoco employer. We had this little project, and the idea for it was to tell the company how much money they're making or losing. And so they didn't know if they were making a lot of money in Texas or losing a lot of money in Florida or doing well in Georgia or doing badly in Pennsylvania. They really didn't know because there was like 1,500 different variables, and there was no report to put it together. And so they paid a company, an IT company from probably Silicon Valley, over $1 million to come in and modernize their systems so they can get a report to tell them if they're doing well or poorly on their contracts. Now, to give you an idea of what those contracts are briefly, basically, these oil companies, they don't always have refineries to give them the gas, or they might not have refineries everywhere to give them like diesel. So what they do is they make contracts with different other companies in this space to supply them consistent amount of fuel because the demand is usually pretty steady. So they know they need 1 million gallons of gasoline in Philadelphia, or they need 500,000 in Georgia, or whatever it might be. And in different parts of the year, there's different fuels. So there's the RFG gasoline, there's the CBOB gasoline, depending on if it's winter or summer. So lots of different variables. So for 2 weeks, I didn't want to do this job. I mean, they gave me the project, and I was like, hey, sure, why not? For the first week, I literally didn't do anything. I just tried to visualize what the problem is. I looked at what some of the work before me was like, and I couldn't figure it out. I was like, hey, this is convoluted. So let me just start from fresh, see what do you want to accomplish? How can we get all of these variables downloaded at the same time so you can get a daily report and you have an idea of what you got to tackle? First week, spend the entire week visualizing it. Second week, once I realized, okay, well, we need all of this stuff to go over here, and I would like to structure it in this kind of a table because that would be the easiest way to sort of like make it day by day, line. Then I can put it into a different spreadsheet where I can just simply, have a summary of it, like a monthly summary, a quarterly summary, so that the president of the company, the directors can look at it in one shot and figure it out. Second week, I implemented everything, and in 2 weeks, the project was done. Not $1 million bonus, by the way. I didn't get $1 million for that. I didn't even get 10,000. That's how absolutely garbage, corporate America has become, because they give the same bonuses to people who don't do anything as the people who are figuring out their problems and saving them money and things like that. So after 2 years of being a corporate, job jockey, I realized that this is just not a good place to be, because I could be broke, but at least I'd be free. $60,000 a year is not that much if you think about it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep, the neural pathways. So just your thoughts become your actions, and if you can control your thoughts, you can control your actions, and
Mm-hmm.
rerunning those pathways not once or twice, but like dozens and dozens and hundreds of times, they really
Exactly.
strengthen those pathways.
And I
Yeah,
think Tim
absolutely.
Ferriss also mentioned something along the same lines, like in the Yale and Harvard. A lot of these kids who are, more well off than most other people, they get access to information that is also a lot better than most of other people. So when they're learning, they take breaks. Like study for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, because my attention span falls away, and it goes down all the way down after like a certain period of time, whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's 45 minutes. So you want to take breaks to reset that fall and start back up at the high attention span. You want to
Definitely.
also associate things. So if you are looking at the computer, you want to associate computers with positive energy. Like, man, I'm grateful that I have this nice computer. And that's one of the things that I was grateful for when I was giving myself mantras, because now I sit down at the computer, my old one over there, and I'm happy because, oh man, I got this computer. Most people can't afford a computer like that. And
Yeah.
you associate your car, man, I love how comfortable these seats are, man. Thank you. You don't have to say this
Hmm.
every single day, but you got to associate as many things as you can with positive emotions, because no matter what happens, you will have to rely on yourself to keep going forward. Like kind of yourself, Alistair, when you left your corporate job and you weren't making maybe as much money. I mean, how did you make that jump? What was the psychological thing that helped you make that jump?
Yeah, for me, it was just, I really just needed to mathematically make it so that it's possible for me to meet my financial goals, and the salary wasn't it. And
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, now that I am, I'm free from the corporate world, and I'm building myself back up to what my salary was, when I was back there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely thankful that I'm on this journey, and it's something that I practice every single day. I'm just so thankful that even if I'm not making as much money as I was in corporate America at this moment, I know that the potential is 10 times what I was making. And the
Mm-hmm.
only way for me to have gotten there, and the only way that I will get there, is to make that leap. And then every day I'm just
Mm-hmm.
thankful that I'm I'm playing my own game. It's
Mm-hmm.
just yeah, very happy for that. Yeah,
That's good. I mean, it did not take you a second to come up with that, so it's obviously probably sincere. So that's kind of how
yeah,
you
yeah,
feel, and people probably can feel that. And I think
yeah,
another thing
absolutely.
is pain point. I mean, did you feel like sitting in that career was painful? Like,
Oh,
did that also play
it was
into
so
your hand,
painful.
or no?
So painful. It was extremely painful. Just I remember even when I before COVID and I was working in an office, just the thought that somebody told me where to be and what to do. Like they told me I had to be in this office from 8 a.m. to
Hmm.
6 p.m. They told me I almost felt claustrophobic, like I couldn't leave. Like they're telling me to sit in this cage, like you cannot leave. Like, and it was just yeah, it gives you like this anxiety, like, you need to go, just need to be here. I need you to sit here and stay here. No, you cannot leave. You have a doctor's appointment, it doesn't matter. Like, whatever it is, like, you want to do something at home. No, I need you to sit here. And then they would tell you, like, oh, I need you to not leave at 5:30. I want you to leave at 6:30 from now on because we need people to put in more hours. And it's just like you go home and it's dark outside. You go to work and it's dark outside. And your whole
Yeah.
entire day, you're sitting inside of a building with no flexibility, no freedom, and that was just, it was my personal hell basically. And so
And
I
it's,
had to get out.
yeah. I mean, I think people don't realize how difficult it is until they put themselves in that position. Because I think a lot
Yeah,
of people right now might listen to us from a first world country complain about our cushy corporate jobs. Meanwhile, they have dirty water in their village or town. They can't
yeah,
afford food, but it doesn't really matter where you are. Everybody feels pain, and
yeah,
once you hit that point where you feel pain, that's usually the biggest motivating factor. So, like for me, the point where I hit the pain with women, for instance, in college, that was the motivating factor for me getting better at it. Like I
yeah.
was watching this YouTube channel, I'm not sure that they're around anymore, called Simple Pickup. And so
Okay.
what they did on that, have you seen that before?
I don't think so.
Basically, hopefully I don't offend anybody, especially women, with this, but basically these
Okay.
guys would come in and be players to the girls. They would say things that are absolutely wild. Like for instance, they would quote video games. So like, hey girl, you know this? I can't quote anything off the top of my head, but let's say StarCraft. You see my tattoo? Oh, you don't? Okay, cool. It's because it's a Dark Templar. You can't see them. They're invisible. Just come up with complete nonsense. The girls are obviously like, "What are you talking about?" And they would get numbers. They'd talk to girls. They'd be good at what they're doing. And so I was like, "Hey, I watched your YouTube channel for like 3 months. I'm not any better. Do you have a class maybe or something?" So I paid for their like $500 course. And the premise of it was very simple. You just go up to girls like throughout the day. So if you work into school, say hi to any girl that you like. So like I was riding a bicycle and I saw a girl with a yellow dress and I was like, that's a nice yellow dress, or she's probably pretty. Let me just turn around. I have a few minutes to spare. I pull up on the bicycle next to her and I say, hey, this is random. I get it. My name is Arsen. What's your name? I thought you were really cute. And she might say, I'm sorry, I have a boyfriend. And you say, okay, well, hope your boyfriend's a lucky guy and walk away. Or you can, she might say, yeah, maybe I'm open to it.
Yeah.
And guess what? Out of the 300 or so girls that I talked to that summer, most of them said no. But if
Mhm.
you did say yes, and I was able to find different girlfriends from that, and I became better as a guy because now instead of being that weirdo that says, "Hey, did you know about the fact that an average tree is only 50 years or some other bullshit fact?" Instead of being this creepy guy that doesn't know how to talk, I'd be like, "Hey, how are you? Like, how are things going? How's life?" Because I don't
Yeah.
even at that point have to talk to a girl as a boyfriend potential. I can just talk to her as a friend and have a
Yeah.
reasonable conversation because I was no longer intimidated,
Yeah. Well, that's the
and the
secret
pain
to
of being
sales too,
single
right?
was
It's like,
what got me there.
yeah, well, that's end up being the secret to sales is is repetition and you can't you can't make a sale if you are on a sales call. If you don't go up and if you don't
Yeah,
go take a talk to prospect. But hey, I think we're just about an hour now, so
time flies.
to wrap up, just want to say thank you very much.
Thank
And I
you.
wanted to know if you have any kind of last words, any kind of last words of advice for people, or anything that you'd like to mention.
Sure. Should have prepared this before I started the podcast, but if I were to give you advice, let me just give you the same advice that I'll give to my own kids, my own grandkids. Hopefully I get to see them. That'd be great. Really appreciate that opportunity. But if I do get to see them, I'm going to tell them the exact same thing. If you want to make money in life, take care of yourself, exercise at least a little bit so you're not overweight, so your heart is, beating properly. so that you don't have health issues that come from being overweight. Eat properly, learn how to cook, because once you learn how to cook, it's fun. You make yourself a nice, really, easy sandwich with a croissant and an egg on top, and all of a sudden it's delicious. You don't have to pay any money for it, and you're being healthy. And exercise, dress well, eat well, and learn how to sell. So if you want to learn how to
Absolutely.
sell, read my book, go on sales calls. But if you don't want to buy my book, if you don't have access to money, just call, text 100 people on LinkedIn, try to learn from them, try to see if you can give them value back by either making jokes, offering them some coffee and a bagel, or some other valuable thing. Like, find something that you can give back to them, or if you can't, still reach out to them and ask for advice. See if you can, get mentored by them, or get shadowed by them, because that repetition, that exercise of going to talking to 100 people, that will get you a lot further than anything else out there.
Absolutely. Arsen, nice to meet you. Nice talking to you.
You too,
The
Alistair.
book,
Appreciate the
Break
time.
Limits, Make Millions, and I wish you all the success and let's keep in touch.
Hey, you too, Alistair. I hope everything's going well on your end. If you have any questions, or if I can help you with anything, feel free to reach out. I think one of the things that people get surprised about, sorry to extend this, but is the fact that the product, like you mentioned, you can have a great product and terrible sales, or great sales and terrible product. People underestimate how important sales is. Like, for
Mhm.
instance, I had this medical sales company that approached me, and they told me they had this brand new product. It's great, it's revolutionary, it will save patients time. Okay, cool. So I invested about 4 weeks of cold calling on their behalf to see like where they're at, and I learned that their product is not new. They could be making a lot more sales if they just hired a sales staff and were able to go through this process, because it takes many months to convert a client in medical sales. You got to
Yeah.
get an appointment, you got to follow up on that appointment, come back to that appointment. That company would have been 10 times where it's at right now if it wasn't cheap and didn't pay for their sales staff. But they've been in business
Mhm.
for close to 5 years, and they still don't have sales staff, so they're barely trudging along. Meanwhile, competitors, they're just miles ahead of them. And even
Right.
if you have a shitty product, like let's say my product in medical sales, it wasn't revolutionary. I was the difference, because on the weekends I would show up. On Mondays I would take a little bit of time off. Nobody knew, but I took some time off because I was working the weekends. And obviously, corporate job is not going to say, "Yeah, you can take time off." But myself, I felt at comfort, because if I put in the work on Saturday, Sunday, I'm not going to work as hard on Monday and Tuesday. Okay, you're not paying me for all that work. You're paying me on commission. So sometimes you have to learn to keep your mouth shut. But if you're
Mhm.
doing good at sales and you're providing value as you yourself, then you can sell your product. Because I was outselling everybody in my area when I was doing medical sales, and my product was terrible. So
Mhm.
hopefully that will take some
Exactly.
excuses off the table for some of the people.
Absolutely. All right, Arsen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah,
Okay.
bye
Bye
bye.
bye.